Hi everyone, my name's Kev. Welcome back to KG Graves, the one-on-one series. This is number 60, Lyndon B. Johnson, in Stonewall, Texas, USA. As usual, don't forget, give it the thumbs up if you like the video, subscribe to the channel, it's free, and hit that notification bell for more videos like this. Thanks for watching. Here's some information about Lyndon B. Johnson.
I shall not seek, and I will not accept the nomination of my party for another term as your president.
This is number 60, Lyndon B. Johnson, at the Johnson Family Cemetery in Stonewall, Gillespie County, Texas, USA. Lyndon B. Johnson was born on the 27th of August 1908 near Stonewall, Texas, USA. He was an American politician who served as the 36th President of the United States from 1963 to 1969. He holds the distinction of being one of the few presidents who served in all elected offices at the federal level. He grew up in poverty, with his father losing a great deal of money. Graduated in 1924 from Johnson City High School, where he participated in public speaking, debate and baseball. Lyndon decided to move to Southern California. He worked at his cousin's legal practice and in various other jobs before returning to Texas, where he worked as a day laborer. In 1926, he managed to enroll at SWTSTC, now the Texas State University. He worked his way through school, participating in debate and campus politics, and edited the local school newspaper, the College Star. On the 17th of November 1934, he married Claudia Outer Taylor, known as Lady Bird, at St. Mark's Episcopal Church in San Antonio. Lyndon asked Claudia to marry him during their first date. Many dates later, she finally agreed. They had two daughters, Linda Bird, born in 1944, and Lucy Barnes, born in 1947. Lyndon gave his children names with the LBJ initials. His dog was Little Beagle Johnson. His home was the LBJ Ranch. His initials were on his cufflinks, ashtrays and clothes. During his marriage, he had affairs with numerous women, in particular with Alice Marsh, née Glass, who assisted him politically. He worked as a high school teacher and a congressional aide before winning election to the U.S. House of Representatives in 1937. He was appointed a lieutenant commander in the U.S. Navy Reserve on the 21st of June 1940. While serving as a U.S. representative, he was called to active duty 3 days after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941. On the 9th of June 1942, he volunteered as an observer for an airstrike on New Guinea by B-26 bombers. However, reports show that the aircraft never arrived at its destination due to engine issues. Lyndon was awarded the Silver Star, the American Campaign Medal, Asiatic Pacific Campaign Medal, and the World War II Victory Medal. He was released from active duty on the 17th of July 1942 and remained in the Navy Reserve, later promoted to Commander on the 19th of October 1949. He resigned from the Navy Reserve effective the 18th of January 1964. In 1960, Lyndon ran for Democratic nomination for President. Ultimately, Senator John F. Kennedy bested him and his other rivals for the nomination, then surprised many by offering to make Lyndon his vice presidential running mate. Kennedy Johnson won the presidential election. As vice president, Lyndon assumed the presidency on the 22nd of November 1963 after President Kennedy was assassinated. He was quickly sworn in as president on Air Force One by U.S. District Judge Sarah T. Hughes in Dallas on the 22nd of November 1963, just 2 hours and 8 minutes after the assassination. On the 29th of November 1963, just 1 week later, Lyndon issued an executive order to rename NASA's Apollo Launch Operations Center and the NASA Air Force Cape Canaveral launch facilities as the John F. Kennedy Space Center. Cape Canaveral was officially known as Cape Kennedy from 1963 until 1973. Lyndon's campaign managers broadcast the Daisy ad. It portrayed a little girl picking petals from a daisy while counting to 10. Then a baritone voice took over, counted down from 10 to 0, and the visual showed the explosion of a nuclear bomb. This was to sway voters away from his opposition candidate, Barry Goldwater. Here is the video.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 6, 8, 9,
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
These are the stakes. To make a world in which all of God's children can live, or to go into the dark. We must either love each other or we must die.
Vote for President Johnson on November 3rd. The stakes are too high for you to stay home.
The following year, Lyndon was elected to the presidency when he won by a landslide victory against Arizona Senator Barry Goldwater, receiving 61.1% of the popular vote in the 1964 presidential election, the largest share won by any presidential candidate since the 1820 election. His domestic policy was aimed at expanding civil rights, which was aided by the Selma to Montgomery marches in Alabama led by Martin Luther King, and also public broadcasting, access to health care, aid to education and the arts, urban and rural development, and public services. In 1964, Johnson coined the term the Great Society to describe these efforts. In addition, he sought to create better living conditions for low-income Americans by spearheading a campaign unofficially called the War on Poverty. As part of these efforts, he signed the Social Security Amendments of 1965, which resulted in the creation of Medicare and Medicare aid. During his years in office, national poverty declined significantly, with the percentage of Americans living below the poverty line dropping from 23% to 12%. After the murder of civil rights worker Viola Liuzzo, Lyndon went on television to announce the arrest of 4 Ku Klux Klansmen implemented in her death. He angrily denounced the Klan as a hooded society of bigots and warned them to return to a decent society before it's too late. He was the first president to arrest and prosecute members of the Klan since Ulysses S. Grant about 93 years earlier. Lyndon followed his predecessor's actions in bolstering NASA and made the Apollo program a national priority. NASA conducted the Gemini crewed space program, developed the Saturn V rocket and its launch facility, and prepared to make the first crewed Apollo program flights. On the 27th of January 1967, the nation was stunned when the entire crew of Apollo 1 was killed in a cabin fire during a spacecraft test on the launch pad, stopping Apollo in its tracks. He maintained his staunch support of Apollo through congressional and press controversy, and the program recovered. The first 2 crewed missions, Apollo 7 and the first crewed flight to the moon, Apollo 8, were completed by the end of his term. He congratulated the Apollo 8 crew, saying, "You've taken all of us, all over the world, into a new era." On the 16th of July 1969, he attended the launch of the first moon landing mission, Apollo 11, becoming the first former or incumbent US president to witness a rocket launch. Lyndon initially sought to run for re-election under the provisions of the 22nd Amendment. However, following disappointing results in the New Hampshire primary, he withdrew his candidacy. At the end of his presidency in 1969, he returned to his Texas ranch, published his memoirs, and in other respects kept a low profile. During his presidential term, Lyndon was involved in many other historic events and policies, too many to discuss here, including the Vietnam War, the Six-Day War, gun control, urban riots and transportation. He was responsible for 24 pieces of legislation to be signed off. On Inauguration Day on the 20th of January 1969, he saw Richard Nixon sworn in, then got on a plane to fly back to Texas. When the front door of his plane closed, he pulled out a cigarette, his first cigarette he had smoked since his heart attack in 1955. One of his daughters pulled it out of his mouth and said, "Daddy, what are you doing? You're going to kill yourself." He took it back and said, "I've now raised you girls. I've now been president, now it's my time." From that point on, he went into a very self-destructive spiral. One final amusing fact. Lyndon continued the FBI's wiretapping of Martin Luther King Jr. that had been previously authorized by the Kennedy administration under Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy. As a result of listening to the FBI tapes, remarks on King's extramarital activities were made by several prominent officials, including Lyndon, who once said that King was a hypocritical preacher. This was even though he himself had multiple extramarital affairs. In April 1972, Lyndon had a second heart attack while visiting his daughter Linda in Virginia. This was not helped by his return to smoking after nearly 15 years and added weight gain. He flew to Houston to consult with a heart specialist, Dr. Michael DeBakey, where he learned his condition was terminal. Lyndon died on the 22nd of January 1973 at 3:39 p.m. of a third heart attack at the age of 64. His wife Claudia Alter Johnson died on the 11th of July 2007 at the age of 94. The news of his death was dramatically communicated on CBS Evening News by Walter Cronkite. He was given a state funeral. Let's see where his grave is located. So, there you have it, the grave of Lyndon B. Johnson, 36th US President, and his wife Claudia. If you have enjoyed watching this video, then please like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more content like this. Thank you for watching, see you on the next one.